I, just like many girls I know, especially on my soccer team, we work 6 days a week, an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. I say we work as hard as boys, so I think we deserve just as many opportunities.
Canada, it's fantastic that if you see when the Canadian women's soccer team, the stands are completely jammed, and that's the way it should be. But I do know that if you look at using the Canadian women's soccer team as an example, a lot of those players play for U.S. Teams. And if you have ever gone to any of those games, you'll see that there's very few spectators, whereas male sports, for some reason, they seem to attract more.
I think women's sports gets less spectators because it's not as widely broadcasted and kind of just brought up in society and as a whole. If you turn on your TV, the regular sports you see are always men's sports. When's the last time you turned on your TV and you saw women's sports being broadcasted? Probably only if there's a World Cup or some international event. So I think just general awareness is not where it should be.
I think female sports get less attention than male sports because if you look at the pros and what's on TV, it's mainly male sports. Basketball, hockey, football, baseball, those are all male-dominated sports that take up a lot of TV time. I think that if we saw females playing on TV and you saw jerseys being sold and all those things, then it would be equal. But for as long as I've grown up, I grew up idolizing male athletes. I didn't really know that many female athletes to cheer for apart from the Olympics. So I think for me and a lot of other people, that's all we see, and so that's what we go to.
One of them is a bit to do with economics. If you think of the big leagues like the NHL for hockey, NFL for football, there's just more money in it. People seem to historically be more interested in that. But I think if we look forward in 20 years right now, I can see that changing.
Gonna have to be a different man. Time may change me, but I can't break the hardware.
Well, I think now in the 21st century we're a lot better at accepting women for playing sports. More and more women are starting to play sports, and I think that's a good thing.
Back then, if a woman, like the gender role for women was you were supposed to be in the kitchen, and then when your husband got home, you would cook them dinner, and during the day you would clean the house. So obviously back then it wasn't really like normal, I guess you could say, for a woman to play sports. And I think that's why to this day there's still more males interested in playing sports than females, because some families still do follow that gender role.
Okay, I think that gender roles is the key idea behind why the importance is placed on male sports instead of female sports.
So wanting to know how male and female sports varied, we asked Alyssa to explain her experiences on both the male and female football teams.
Overall level of play between both teams.
Well, each gender, they're both very committed to flag football and football respectively. Like, they're dedicated, they want to be there. It's just with boys football, just biologically there's a different type of nature between girls and guys sports. And this is why I always promote equity instead of equality, because equity is treating people how they should be treated accordingly, whereas equity is just being treated the same, which is, I think, applies a lot to football, because the way the coaches push the boys is a lot different, because they need that different type of motivation, that type of yelling and aggravation and type of scary as we'll put it. But I really enjoyed it because it's a different type of discipline, and I enjoy that type of discipline because it motivates me. But flag football is just as great. Obviously, I love it very much, as you can tell. But for the first time ever, Richview is hosting a Girls Friday Night Lights, which is a really cool event because there's all this commotion around the boys Friday Night Lights. So it's kind of interesting to have the same type of thing, but for girls sports. And I think
really nice to see finally, because normally the boys teams are constantly advertising, oh hey, come out to our football game tonight or soccer game tonight, when this year it's happening for the girls, and it's really nice to see for a change.
Level of commitment, no. I don't see a difference between the two. I think that all the teams that have coached, guys and girls, have both always showed up to games and practices. Although I will say that, in my personal opinion, I think girls are easier to coach.
I think that both women and men, in my experience, are young women and young men are equally competitive and serious about their sports.
When the topic of American sports scholarships came up,
Okay.
Eric had this to say.
I believe that getting a men's scholarship is definitely a lot harder than getting a scholarship for a woman. I'm not going to deny that women work hard in their sport, and a good example of that is Kira. She trains 6 times a week, and that's pretty awesome. And she's getting a scholarship, I'm pretty sure, to go to the States. And the problem is that guys in their sports also work the same amount as that, and they don't get scholarships. To be a guy, you have to work 10 times harder since there's so much more competition.
What Eric is trying to say is it's way easier for a female hockey player to get a scholarship than it is for a guy. They have about double the chance. That being said, every college sport that has 100 or more schools participating, excluding wrestling and tennis, females are more likely to obtain a scholarship. Now, what caused this?
Title IX is an amendment signed in 1972 by President Nixon, and it states that no person in the United States shall, on the bias of sex, be excluded from participating in, being denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program for activity receiving federal financial assistance.
Now, before its passage, many of the nation's leading universities didn't accept women. Law schools, medical schools, they often used quotas to limit female enrollment. As for sports, female student athletes were rare and received precious little support from college athletic programs. The logic behind Title IX is the same as that behind all great civil rights legislation. In our democracy, the government may not play favorites among races or religions or between the sexes. We're all equal before the law.
What started as a way to promote gender equality in sports and education quickly morphed into a series of strict quotas.
These rigid quotas have caused many male sports to be cut in order for female opportunities.
Hi, my name is John Rizzuti. Today we're on the campus of Northwest Missouri State University in Maryville. 35 years ago, I came to this school to participate in college wrestling and, of course, to get an education. I'd like to take you over to the gymnasium and show you the wrestling room where we worked out. Oh, locked out again. But that doesn't really surprise me. You see, wrestling was dropped at this school back in 1985. Since 1981, there have been 170 college wrestling programs cut. More than half of all teams in existence. This according to the General Accounting Office. USA Wrestling says even more. What's the bottom line? Our best Olympic sports, wrestling, gymnastics, track and field, baseball, they're all on their way to extinction. So what caused all this havoc with wrestling? A word came into play in 1979 known as proportionality. What it means is that the ratio of student athletes must be roughly equivalent to the ratio of the general overall student population. In other words, if you've got 50% males and 50% females on campus, you have to have that same ratio in athletics.
Now, Howard's wrestling coach, Wade Hughes, summed up the problem this way, quote, "The impact of Title IX's proportionality standard has been disastrous because far more males than females are seeking to take part in athletics." No, say the Title IX advocates, women are every bit as committed to sports as men, and they have persuaded courts that if there are fewer women than men on college varsity teams, the only explanation is discrimination.
But the truth is, ESPN found that boys are almost twice as likely to say sports are a big part of who they are compared to girls. The bottom line is that female sports are far from where they should be, but male sports should not have to be cut to satisfy the image of equality. In sports, female athletics should not be held back, but nor should the athletics of men. When it comes to sports, perfect equality is not the answer. Equity is.
My life, my life.